Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. I won't lie, with the launch of Warzone Mobile and everything going on there with the return to Verdansk and having Rebirth back for now, I've been thinking a lot about Warzone 1 lately and going a little bit more into not just the general stuff like, yeah, it was Verdansk, it was fun, yeah, the movement was awesome, we had a good weapon and variety and the meta was always pretty exciting, but more so the specifics, like across the board, what we saw from year to year going from MW 2019 to Cold War to Vanguard. And the more I think about it, the more it seems like, man, Warzone, I would say, had like the perfect formula. Now, yes, there were also very convenient circumstances for the game doing extremely well with everything going on in the world. Everyone was just stuck at home playing games, and Warzone happened to be the hot new one. But it was going to do really well even without all of that, right? Like the game was good, and they had all these things that they were doing consistently all the time throughout all the seasonal updates year over year. And then once we got closer and closer to Warzone 2, it sort of started to let up a little. And then throughout Warzone 2, it was kind of non-existent, and that trend has almost continued here into MW3 Warzone as well, which is concerning. They're just going away from what worked so good before for no real reason, because they're not really innovating outside of what they were doing before. So wanted to break down a handful of things that, in my opinion, Warzone 1 did extremely well that I would really hope they are things that return at some point in time in the future. Maybe once they stabilize Warzone a little bit and get it back to the place they want it to be at in terms of overall gameplay, more one-to-one of what Warzone 1 was like. That was a lot of ones. Anyways, the first thing, the map and POI updates from season to season. This is something that really was a huge trend dating all the way back to Blackout. If you played that back in the day during BO4, every single season the Blackout map was entirely different. Sometimes it was at nighttime, sometimes it was at sunset, sometimes it was underwater. The map updates were crazy in Blackout, and they kind of continued that into Warzone with Verdansk. We'd see various different POIs updated or added in. So maybe a building in one season was knocked down and destroyed the next, and it'd be an entirely different play space. Or downtown, I think towards the end of the Cold War era, was kind of flattened out and leveled in certain areas. We saw the stadium open up. We saw all sorts of really cool things like that, where the map played really different from season to season because of drastic updates to it. Obviously, with the Cold War integration and the update or upgrade to Verdansk 84, we saw different POIs completely rotated out, with Dam being replaced by the satellite area and everything. Like, we saw significant changes to the map season after season, changes with the lighting and just all the POIs and the flow of it, and we don't really have that anymore. Al-Mazrah saw a couple of updates here and there, with maybe the tombs being added in with the Halloween event and that having more of a like an impact on gameplay. The train and stuff got some slight updates, but like from a significant level, there wasn't anything too crazy. We didn't see new points of interest added in to have that crazy hot drop on day one or anything like that. The POIs themselves don't really ever evolve unless there's something very specific with a storyline that maybe like crushes a building in this one specific spot, or it ruins the highway here. Nothing that major though, and that to me was something that really brought players back and also kept gameplay just feeling a lot more fresh, because it's like, okay, I know this building, I played it all this last season, and now I'm walking into it and it's completely different. I gotta know my routes, my jump up spots are different, the lines of sight. I thought that stuff was really cool. So the lack of map and POI updates has been pretty underwhelming and pretty disappointing in my opinion. Another thing that Warzone 1 did so well was its constant, fresh, new limited time modes. The LTM updates that we saw throughout Warzone 1 were awesome. And it seems like now, even throughout Warzone 2, dating back to that, we get a couple of different one-off LTMs here and there. Maybe it'll be something for, April Fool's Day where the gravity is turned down, or snipers make you bounce around, or maybe they adjust the pacing of a zone or something, or perhaps it's a specific weapon pool or something like that. But it's not really that extraordinary in terms of the gameplay that they're changing with their new LTMs. For the most part, we're kind of just cycling the same few things in and out with all the new playlist updates. And even more so now within Warzone 3, it's really just cycling the maps that you're playing on within Resurgence or Mini Royale or whatever the case may be there. dating back to Warzone 1, we had, BR 200, where it was 200 players running around on Verdansk, and it was absolutely just insane. We had buyback as an LTM, where if you had $4,500 cash on your body, you'd always redeploy. We had snipers and shotguns at one point. We had all sorts of really cool LTMs. Payload. We had whatever, Clash, whatever it was called. It was 50 versus 50 Rumble. They really went all in on LTMs, and it was always something to look forward to with the new seasonal updates there. Whereas right now, again, it's kind of just like, okay, what playlists are going to be available here? Are we getting quads on Ashika or a quads on Vondel? That's really what I need to know now. And it's never really, okay, what's the cool LTM from here? So that was another thing keeping the game feeling fresh and keeping players coming back that they've sort of gone away from. And by the way, as we're going through all these things today, if you enjoy the video, if you agree with the points that I'm bringing up, you want to get more attention on the video and perhaps make that positive impact on the game, which is always the end goal here, do me a favor and drop a like on it. It really does help get the video around and share it around. And if you guys are new to the channel, you simply have not subscribed yet, every single day, I'm your one-stop shop for all things going on in COD. So feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Next up, this actually kind of ties in with the map updates and the POI updates that we were talking about earlier, actual lore and story-driven updates within gameplay. Every single season, I remember back in, Warzone 1 with MW 2019 and Cold War, not nearly as much within Vanguard and Caldera, but still at least some. With the seasonal updates, we'd always see that intro cutscene, or we'd get like that trailer for the season, and it'd explain exactly what's going on that season. When we saw Kong versus Godzilla on Caldera, it was because of the, story-driven lore that they had. And while it is crazy and makes no sense whatsoever, at least there's a reason behind what's happening within the gameplay, right? Now we've got, apparently within Season 3, Snoop Dogg and Cheech and Chong coming up, and Devin Booker. And how exactly does this all tie into gameplay? Is there going to be a trailer where this actually connects and at least has some sort of explanation, or do they just show up one day like, okay, I'm here, clocking in, right? Dating back to Warzone 1, we saw map updates based around all sorts of different stuff with the train stations and having new characters introduced throughout the trailers that allowed us access into those different POIs. We saw all sorts of lore within the map, the Bunker 11 stuff and everything going on there because of the story. And so all the updates that we saw with the map and with even some modes here and there made a lot more sense, and I think connected things a lot better across the board. And kind of piggybacking off of that, this was a Verdansk MW 2019 specific thing, really, intel missions. We saw these updated throughout MW 2019, where every couple of weeks we'd see a new intel mission drop, which had you scavenging around Verdansk for clues. You'd have to go to one point and pick up a coin and get a hint towards where the next clue would be, and you'd basically be exploring the lore and explaining the lore of the map and of everything going on within Modern Warfare 2019 by roaming around and finding these pieces of intel. I thought it was a super cool way to include an extra layer of depth into what was just usually standard Battle Royale gameplay. It's something we haven't seen in years, and I'm pretty bummed by that as well. The Easter eggs, as I mentioned too, you can kind of consider the intel as like Easter eggs, just more direct ones, but the Bunker 11 stuff, having to pick up the phones and learn a little bit of Russian numbers and everything right there, it was really cool. So that's kind of stuff that we don't see as much of anymore. We get a couple of Easter eggs like when Fortune's Keep dropped, and there's some stuff to earn there, but Verdansk and the Warzone 1 era, I really think knocked that stuff out of the park, and we just don't see that anymore. And then lastly here, this is something I just saw on Twitter the other day, and it's just so accurate. The menus, the UI. Warzone 1 was simple and it was clean and it worked. And then I guess maybe someone was just bored one day and they're like, you know what? I'm changing all the menus. And now we have the menus we've got now, and they're just not great. You gotta scroll and scroll and scroll. The modes, the settings, everything like that. Just the UI in general, not as simple, not as clean as it once was. It's a small thing to complain about, I feel like, but it is something you get somewhat annoyed by in game, I'm sure of it. You gotta back out of this. Oh, you're in the wrong menu now. You gotta wait a couple of seconds and back out to the next one and then go back in. Warzone 1 was just so simple, so clean. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the golden saying, and it was not broken, and they decided to quote unquote fix it, and it was not a fix at all. So we've really got ourselves in a mess now, right? But yeah, you stack all these things on top of each other. The map updates, the POI updates, the constant LTMs, the lore and story-driven updates, intel missions, Easter eggs, the general simplicity of the game. It was the perfect formula. They had it all right. And there were tweaks that were needed, and they made some tweaks over time to really make the game better in the long run. But then Warzone 2 happened. They reverted so much stuff. They really stripped it down to being a bare bones thing that was not really at all as enjoyable as Warzone 1. And we've kind of slowly been building back up to that, and we're still not quite there yet. Will we ever get back to that? Only time's gonna tell. But I feel like it is strange that things seemed so nice within Warzone 1, and then they were changed simply for the sake of change. That being said, though, that's going to wrap things up for this one. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.